everyone.
Hey, how's everybody doing today?
We're Candace Mae and Mary Denise, your guides for reframing your life, digging the gold from your past struggles and designing the life of your dreams. Welcome to Unshackle Your Voice, so you can be seen and heard with confidence.
We are super excited for you guys to be here. This has been an incredible week. I've been really busy with getting stuff ready, getting ready for the holiday, even though we don't really have it as an official holiday where we get the day off and get holiday pay for it, but we are celebrating fathers all around the world for
Yay!
Father's Day. Yay!
Father's Day. Yeah. Well, one thing we know, even though we may not all have a father in our life, there was a father who created us at one point. We definitely have a heavenly father, that's for sure. And I thank God for that.
Yep,
but tell me, what do you remember about your dad, Mary Denise?
Well, funny that you ask, because I had three fathers throughout my life. I had my adopted father named Gilbert, and I had him for, I want to say 4 years. I believe he died when I was 4 years old. And then I had another father figure who was my stepfather. His name was Richard. Not so kind, but it's okay because I survived. And then there was my biological father, who I found in 2003 and managed to have a relationship with him until he passed away in 2006. And each man in my life taught me different things of what to look for and what to expect. And it's funny because I remember growing up being told that little girls grow up to marry men like their father. Well, I didn't really remember Gilbert because I was 4. What am I going to remember about him other than knowing that he bought me a pony because I cried and cried and cried for a pony, and then he bought it, and I was petrified. I never rode it. So they had to get rid of it. And then with my biological father, Bourbon, he taught me some really valuable lessons in life. And one of the biggest lessons that he taught me was to always wear shoes that were quality shoes, because I only had one pair of feet, because I used to buy Payless brand shoes and Kmart shoes, if y'all remember that store. And he took me shopping and for shoes, and he introduced me to Monroe's. The leather on those shoes. And so I still have one pair of shoes left from back then. And this was back in 2003. And I still have that pair of shoes. They're so comfortable. But he was right. The only feet you ever have are the ones that are on your feet right now. And if you wear crappy shoes, your feet will be crappy.
Well, I have to tell you, my grandmother on my mother's side, Alberta, she would agree with you. That was her stance all the time. You have to pay a lot of money for your shoes. No cheap shoes. You only get one pair of feet that have to last you through your life. I have to say, I still don't like to spend a lot of money on shoes, but it is true, when I do spend the extra money on the shoes or the inserts, it makes a huge difference. There was a company, I think it was Red Wing shoes, and they would make the shoe. They would make you a custom shoe, and she would not hesitate to take us into Red Wings. And especially, I think my brother or my sister one had some real challenges, and she would pay the money to get them really good shoes right then. There's a place here in where I live in Murrieta, and they have, I think it's called Elias's Shoes, and they do that. I went in there, and I did buy an insert for my shoes, because they have those machines. They measure your feet and the pressure of how you walk. And good advice. That's good advice your father gave you.
What do you remember about yours?
I remember a lot of things about my dad. My dad was the youngest of 14, and I'm the youngest of 5. So my dad comes from a very old family. Growing up, going to his childhood home in northern Georgia, there was no running water. There was no, outhouses at my Aunt Julie's and Uncle Archie's home. Though Aunt Maybelle had a beautiful cattle ranch with state of the art of everything. So there was a lot of contrast there as well. And I remember he was a hunter and he was a fisher. I remember when he brought home a bear. They had gone hunting and they brought home some bear meat. And my mom, bless her heart, she's like, okay, she didn't know how to cook bear meat, so she marinated it. And then we had a grill, a gas grill outside, and cooking that steak out there. It had a terrible, terrible taste. It tasted very, what is the word? Animally? Gamey. It tasted very gamey. It was horrible. But he would bring home venison and stuff that he caught. And he would always say, you only hunt and get what you need to eat. You don't hunt for sport, So those who don't like hunting know that nothing went to waste. He used to fish. He loved to fish, and even ice fishing. He would even go out ice fishing. Now, I've never been out ice fishing, but he did. He would go out regularly every year. And he was a gunman. He loved to shoot. The property in Georgia, we loved to go down there as a family because we all like to shoot. I love to shoot. It was a lot of fun. And my dad was a generous man. He would give you the shirt off his back. He always had Wrigley's spearmint gum in his shirt pocket, because the funny thing is he always had a collar shirt, that he wore, even though he worked in a factory making tires. When he wasn't working, he always had this collar shirt on. He always looked, like a businessman, if you will. And they always had that gum. So it was always Dad, and you jump on Dad, and you walk up and he'd do the flips, with the hold your hands. And it was so, we used to play this game, Smiling Brown. So I used to play that game with him all the time. So I have some fond memories with my dad. Yeah. Now I can tell you, I never got to go to father-daughter banquet with my dad. My oldest brother had to fill in for that on occasion. But so people have good memories.
I didn't experience that either, and I didn't get walked down the aisle by any of my father figures. Actually, it was my ex-husband's father that walked me down the aisle.
Yeah, I didn't have that experience either.
Yeah.
In fact, I didn't have anybody fill in when I got married. Nobody walked me down the aisle.
His dad, and it was his stepdad actually, but yeah, he's the one that walked me down the aisle, and for the longest time we would crack up because I remember going in through the church, and he's like, "You got this." Yes, I got this, and I got overwhelmingly I get overwhelmed with emotion, and then my feet are hurting because I had bought the cheapest shoes to go with this corny rental dress.
Yeah.
And I remember telling him, we started walking, and I remember telling him, I need you to stop walking. And he was like, why? I said, just stop. And I kicked my shoes under the pew. I kicked them off to the side.
Good. Because they were so painful.
I can't do it. I can't walk down the aisle. Well, then it turned out I literally walked down the aisle barefoot and pregnant.
Oh, that's funny. That is
with,
a great
with
story.
his dad, with my ex-husband's dad walking me down the aisle.
Did he know you were pregnant?
Nope, we didn't know. We didn't know.
You didn't know either.
At the time of the wedding, we did not know I was pregnant.
Wow.
So yeah, that's one of the fondest memories I have of someone that was not related to me, by blood or adoption. But I remember that about this man, and he was so graceful about the whole thing. But yeah, they made so much fun of me afterwards.
After you had the baby and they figured it out, right? They did the math.
Yeah, we all did the math.
That's great. I love that. I love that. So what kind of qualities do you think you'd look for in a dad? If you got to just pick the perfect dad, what would you pick?
I started to say something earlier about, I grew up being told that girls grow up to marry men like their fathers. And I never understood that until I met my biological father. And he had all of my ex-husband had all of the qualities that my father had. And my biological father, Bourbon, he was very compassionate, at least in the 3 years that I knew him. He was very compassionate, very loving. He was very generous. And he had so much wisdom. He was like a problem solver. Anytime I needed to talk to him, he was there. I don't know if that's the same experience that any of my siblings had, because it turned out that my father, well, let's just say my father was very loving. And so I have a lot of brothers and sisters. So I don't know what their experiences were with him. But and then just in case you guys are watching, I'm not diminishing anything of what y'all had with Bourbon. But I know for me, that's what I experienced with him. And so when he passed away, I was really hurt by it because I felt like I had been robbed of it. And that's a story for another time. But I remember him telling me once, when I die, I'm not leaving any of y'all any money because I worked for it and I'm going to spend it. So don't expect any money. And I thought he was telling me that because, here comes the adopted, here comes the long lost daughter, that fell from the sky, basically. You automatically think, oh, these people are after money and da 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 da. So, he made it very clear that nobody's getting anything because I work for this. And, when he said that, at first I thought, rude. Really? You're so rude. But in hindsight, I understand what he's talking about because as I work to build my business, I always thought that leaving a legacy meant I left a big trust fund for my kids and my grandchildren, but that's not what that means. So I understand now what my father meant by the whole, I'm not leaving y'all any money because I'm going to spend it all on myself, because I get it. I really get it now. So, but I don't know. It's weird what we learn and what we value in fathers and stuff. And I look at the qualities that my son has. My son has a daughter, and he's got, he's actually got 3 daughters, bless his soul. He's in a house full of girls. He's outnumbered. But he's really compassionate with them. He's very firm. Like there's been a couple of times that even I go, ooh, I'm glad you're not my dad.
Yeah.
Like, where did you get that from? Because we weren't that strict with you type situation. But he's very loving, very determined to give his girls what they need. Not necessarily what they want, but he makes sure that they have everything that they need. And I think that that's what a father has to do. They have to make sure that their children have everything that they need, even if it means that they have to have a second job or a third job to make it happen. Because a lot of times some fathers they'll just throw money at the problem, and that spoils the child. That spoils their perception of what life is actually like. So
then what do you mean? Because I was thinking I was following that they needed to monetarily provide for the children.
Well, they need to, they need what the children need. Like they need to provide what the child needs, the clothes, the basic essentials, right? Make sure that they have what they need. But then they also need to be sure that they're teaching their daughters and their sons what it means to be a man, meaning don't get into fights with your significant other in front of the children. Don't be abusive. Don't name call. I have seen so many dads in my lifetime that will call their child's mother some names that are not fit for public radio use,
right.
in front of the children. I have seen where fathers have beat their spouse in front of the children. And so the children grow up seeing that. And so it's important for a father to be able to model what the real expectation is. And that's showing love, partnership. It's not just the woman's job to do all the housework, that, they're not afraid to step in and do it. They're not afraid to step in and clean. That's what I mean when I say that it's important that fathers be able to provide what the children need.
Sure.
Not necessarily what they want. The want is a treat.
Yeah. I love what you said. A couple of things. You mentioned legacy, is more than money. And I believe that. I believe that because I don't associate having to leave money for some behind. We come into the world empty-handed, we may leave empty-handed. But if we can leave something monetary for our family beyond us, great. But I think we can leave a legacy and significance, even if we don't have any money to give. And that is for me, breaking those chains, those generational issues, unshackling those chains that hold us back, so that finding the voice that is your authentic self, and really challenging all of the belief systems of everything that you've been taught, and saying, is that true? Is that a circumstantial thing? Or is that just a fact in the moment and likely to change? And I can hold on to something stronger, and I use biblical truth for my truth to compare that to. And when that happens, it unravels so much richer relationships, much richer perspectives in life. The abundance comes through in so many areas. And then I presume that the financial side will become a blessing as well as a result. So that's my focus has always been on that piece. That generational issue is systemic when it comes to an organization. It's just like a family. A family, we call it, systemic in a family as well, but we call it generational. So that I love that you brought that up about the legacy point. My son-in-law is a great dad to my granddaughter and my grandson, both. I think that's awesome. It's wonderful when your father didn't fulfill all the needs that you had growing up, to find a healthy model to look at. Because what happens when they say a girl naturally marries the father that she grew up with? She doesn't do it intentionally, let me tell you, unless he was a wonderful guy, then she does it intentionally. But if it was a man who had some challenges as a father or a husband, it's not intentional. Sometimes they deliberately think they're going to find someone opposite of their father, and they'll look for someone with different interests and different physical look and all of these things. But the bottom line is, the behaviors, unconscious behaviors and things that come out, the temperaments, are the same as the negative ones that they grew up with, because those get embedded into that belief system as a child, and it becomes what's comfortable to you. It's comfortable, not that you like it, but it's what you're used to. And so sometimes when we meet someone new, it feels awkward. They're a great guy, but something feels unusual. It's not familiar. And so oftentimes we will trade the best for the familiar, right? And unfortunately, that's what we need to bring it out. That's why we're having this show, Unshackle Your Voice, unshackle your thoughts, because it's only when you become aware of that process that you can begin to look a little more closely at your life and at the relationships in your life, and begin to question those relationships and those belief systems and build upon them. So that's amazing. So what you would look for in a dad, another thing you said that I liked was someone who's very loving. This is a term that I grew up with. What does love look like? I didn't know what love looked like. What does respect look like? I couldn't tell you what respect looked like. What was faith? Faith, hope, love. What does that mean? But the greatest of these is love. I could not wrap my head around that for years. I mean, like 30, 40 years, I studied those terms and what do those mean and what do they look like? Because I didn't come from a household that said, I love you. I didn't come from a household, that was embracing. On my birthday, my dad many years would say, how did anybody get so goddamn ugly? And maybe he was joking, but at 12 and 8 and 13 and 16, it doesn't feel like he's joking. It's something that he said to you every year, and you take it to heart, and you begin to question yourself even. So what does love look like? We need to find somebody what love looks like. But if you're told your dad loves you and that's how he behaved, then that might be how you define love. And it's not a good thing. So maybe on another show, maybe we can get into some of those definitions. Not today, we don't have time. But today we did want to focus on dads. And we wanted to hopefully have some wonderful things to say about dads and some food for thought for dads. And if you're a dad and you're listening, I hope you dig deep and ask yourself, what does it mean to be a dad? What can I do better today than I did yesterday? What did my father do for me that I want to repeat? And what did my father do for me that I do not want to repeat? Because it's all about thinking about what you're thinking about. It's all about focusing on your past and digging into what worked and what didn't work, and having intention on how you're going to change today to make a brighter tomorrow.
So, I get a copy of the Reader's Digest mailed to me still. I don't know how that happened, but I still get a little paper book of it. And I came across a little story because they were doing the honoring of the fathers and everything. And they posted an edition that had the 14 favorite short stories. And I came across one that I want to read to you that was just adorable. It was written by a girl named Carmen Mariano out of Braintree, Massachusetts. So Carmen,
Nice.
if you're listening, you're getting a shout out. And it was titled Talking is Like Ketchup. And she says, I sat in my dad's living room reading one night while he watched television. An hour passed before I realized it, and I felt really bad for not speaking during that time. I asked if he was okay, and he said yes. Then I apologized for not talking more. Carmen, Dad replied, talking is like ketchup. If you like the meat enough, you don't need the ketchup. And if you like the company enough, you don't need the conversation. My dad never earned a college degree, but he was the smartest person I ever knew.
Lovely.
I thought that was so on point, because so often we are so determined to force people to have conversation with us. And let's face it, some dads, they work hard. They come home, they don't want to talk. They just want to sit in their recliner, open a bottle of beer, a soda, whatever it is that they do, and watch whatever they watch on television, or even just doze off in a chair. But because we're kids, we have kids that don't understand that, they're climbing all over him. And then when he doesn't say a word, you're like, oh, did I make Dad mad? But no, Dad's just enjoying the view. He's taking time to take in what he has created. And I think that that's just an adorable thing. I know that when my son-in-law, and I call him that because a young lady that I met at a conference a couple of years ago, she introduced me to that term. She says, oh no, baby, I call my son-in-law son-in-love because that's what he is. They met and fell in love. And I was like, oh, that's a good way of looking at it. And it sounds a lot better than son-in-law.
Yeah, son-in-law, daughter-in-love. I love that.
So son-in-love. The minute they hear the van pull up, like you can hear them screaming, daddy, daddy, daddy. And like they're at the door waiting for him to come in, and they're like attacking him. And these kids are 6, 4, and 2. And it is just such a sight. Like I always can tell when he's home because the squealing begins. And it's like, wow. And then like this past weekend, it was funny because Friday, the kids were on one. I don't know what happened to them, but they were on one. And me and my daughter were like, these gremlins need to go. Like, who can we give them to, like, permanently? Because they are out of control. He comes home the whole weekend. They were the best children on earth. And I looked at him and I said, what did you do? Like, how did you get them to calm down? I'm their best friend, he tells me. And I just snorted. I like, yeah, whatever. You've been plying them with popcorn. All this other stuff.
All of the above.
Yeah, exactly. But he does a lot of things with them. I will give him credit for that. He does a lot of sleepovers with them. He builds a lot of stuff for them.
Nice.
He does a lot. And I've always loved that about him, in the fact that he does not care. He will bake with them. He will, I think one time he even let them put lipstick and painted his toenails or something, if I remember correctly. So I think that that's just the most adorable thing that you can do as a dad, is when Dad sits down to have tea with his daughter, his little princess. But then you've got the flip side of the boy. Rough and tough all the way through.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's good. That's wonderful. Well, this has been an enjoyable conversation. I'm really happy with our Father's Day show.
Yeah, me too.
Unshackle your voice and think about what you're thinking about. Think about what it means to be a dad. If you have a dad and you haven't talked to him in a while, send him a card, pick up the phone, just say, I love you, Dad. I know there may have been some hard times in the past, but you know what? Today, I just want to focus on the good times. I just want to focus on, and if you can't think of anything that's really good, then just say, I just want to call you to say, I thought about you today. Period. You didn't say what you were thinking about him, but just that you were thinking about him. Exactly. It's the point. Sometimes we have to take a step into the step forward when we don't have the motivation to do it. We just have to get there. And then as we're getting moving, we get the motivation to keep going. So if we can just break the ice a little bit, maybe keep at it, chip by chip. Who knows? You could blossom into a different relationship. People, if they're intentional about it, can change.
Yep. And I personally want to thank all the men who play a role in a child's life that is without a father. We've had a lot of fathers that pass through, because of their service in the military, service in the fire department, police department, whatever they did when they passed away. There are men that have stepped forward, whether it's a neighbor, an uncle, a friend,
church
whatever,
friend,
whatever role you're playing. I want to thank you for doing that, because our children of today really need strong and positive male role models in their life so that they can grow up to be strong men as well. So thank you for taking that courage, that leap of faith, and agreeing to mentor and be somebody's father figure.
And all you fabulous dads out there who just naturally take care of your family, and not only monetarily, but you say I love you, you give them hugs, you're having activities with them. Kudos to you.
And we would be remiss to leave out the moms who also serve as dads.
That's true. My daughter, my oldest, when I grew, she was growing up, she would give me a card on Father's Day. And she'd say, Mom, I'm giving you this card because you're my mother and you're my father. And I was so touched and shocked at that. I forgot about that till you said that.
Yeah. So I want to acknowledge all the moms that are out there also serving as a father to their children. You are doing an amazing job. I know you're stressed. I know you're pressed. And I know you're just wanting to get a Calgon take me away moment. But trust me,
and you deserve it.
Children love everything that you do for them. So thank you for all that you do for all of the children in the world, moms, dads, friends, uncles, brothers, everybody that plays a role model and is a father figure.
Awesome. So shall we call it a close?
Let's call it a close.
Sunday, June 21st. Pick up the phone. Happy Father's Day.
Yep. Happy Father's Day. Thank you. This is Mary Denise and Candace Mae on Unshackle Your Voice. Be seen and heard. We will see you next time.
Next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Thanks. Bye.